Hello and welcome back to the Europazaal for a very exciting panel discussion here on energy transition and energy security, twins or opposites. Right now we're going to look at how the energy transition can foster energy security. And there is a lot to cover in this panel. I'm going to get right to the introductions because I think this is a big topic we have to cover today. I'd like to start on the left of the room with Virgil Daniel Popescu, the Minister of Energy for Romania. Hello, welcome. Thank you for being here today. Luigi Di Maio, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in Italy.
Hello.
Benoit Revaz, the State Secretary and Director of the Swiss Federal Office of Energy. Thank you for being here. Joining us today virtually are Professor Dörte Fouquet, the Director of European Renewable Energies Federation. Hello, thank you so much for joining us. Also joining us today virtually, Rina Bohle-Teller, Senior Specialist for Global Public Affairs at Vestas in Denmark. Hello, thank you so much for joining me today. If you are catching us live, we might have an additional panelist join us. I'll introduce him if he arrives. Now, of course, for my panelists, the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the war that has now started is having an immediate and far-reaching effect on how we look at energy security specifically. And we're going to come back to this later in the panel. But to start us off, I have the same question for all of you. And I'd like to ask you for this opening round to please limit your responses to 2 minutes each. Based on your own country's experience, what are the main challenges when it comes to energy security? I'd like to start off with Minister Luigi Di Maio of Italy.
Thank you very much. I would like to tell to all of you that it's a pleasure to be here. And about the energy security, as Italy, we are working about 2 directions. On the European level, a strategic plan for the European security about energy, and it's clear that in order to attain an energy security, we have to accelerate the long-term process of the ecological transition and the energy transition. But in the short term, we have to develop more some aspects of our European Union energy, Union's energy, because now, for example, there are not interconnections between the countries of European Union, and so we have a spare capacity in the LNG terminals on the west, for example, on the western side, but we have not the interconnectors to face the challenge of the gas and to give the gas to other countries. On the national side, we are working about a plan of energy security that consists in the diversification of energy sources. We have 3 pipelines with North Africa, with Algeria, Libya, and a pipeline with Azerbaijan. We are investing about the increasing of partnership with this country, not only for Italy, because this net is very well interconnected with Germany, for example, and could be in a reverse flow system can be useful, may be useful even for you in view of a short-term crisis. But I would like to underline again, the first goal remain the energy and ecological transition, and I think that we have to accelerate this process in order to attain the independence from blackmail, like the Russian blackmail on the gas.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'd like to now get Romania's perspective, please, Minister Popescu.
So thank you for inviting me. I fully agree with my colleague from Italy. Yes, we have to continue our Green Deal objective. We have to continue our transition to green energy, but we have also to face the short time period challenges. And I think all are agreed that what happened beginning with last year with the price of gas, with increasing the price of gas, was made up by the Russian in order to then to continue with the aggression, with the war in Ukraine, and then to blackmail Europe according to gas, as they say now that we have to pay in ruble. Anyway, we have to face down these short challenges, and let's say Romania it's a little bit lucky because it's one of the less dependent country of Russian gas. We have our own resources of gas. We want to extract the gas from the Black Sea, and we want to become a regional supplier of natural gas with the Romanian gas. We did our pipelines. We did BRUA pipelines, which is a common project of common interest. We are waiting for our colleagues from Greece and Bulgaria to finalize the interconnector between Greece and Bulgaria, and finally to be ready as a vertical corridor in order to bring the gas from Azerbaijan and also the gas from LNG ports from the Greece through BRUA, through Eastern Europe and through Central Europe. We already built a pipeline between north of Romania, Iași, till Chisinau in order to link Republic of Moldova with a source of gas from Romania. So we are doing our job, and we want to contribute to the security of supply and to the diversification of supply. We also finally last year operationalized a new corridor of transport of gas, the Inter-Balkanic corridor, in 2020 after the new directive of gas. Romania cancelled the contract with Gazprom, took the transit pipelines to the Romanian national system, make the reverse flow at the border with Bulgaria and the border with Ukraine, and now we have a new corridor of transport, the Inter-Balkanic corridor that can flow reverse ways the gas from Romania, Bulgaria and Turkey, and also can interconnect with TANAP and then bring gas from Azerbaijan through the new corridor and also from LNG ports from Turkey. So,
thank you very much, Minister Popescu.
We do our jobs, and we work together with our friends from Europe.
Thank you very much. I'd like now to turn to a Swiss perspective, Benoit Revaz.
Thank you for inviting me. On a national level in Switzerland, we want to accelerate the decarbonization and to improve the efficiency. Building refurbishment and the mobility, this is the immediate actions we are running or intensifying. And to take the international perspective, as I already mentioned, the cooperation has to be intensified now to find solutions, to put forces together. Autarky is not a solution in such a difficult situation.
Thank you very much. I'd like to go now to our virtual guests. Professor Dörte Fouquet, perhaps you can give us a European perspective.
Yes, certainly what I can say now, first of all, thank you for having me, and a big compliment to you as moderator. I have followed the other sessions and you're doing an amazingly good job. On the issue itself, I think the aggression war, as we all know, by Russia against Ukraine made us strangely and very good so, made us much more united as the European Union. And that is something I think Mr. Putin was not counting on. So saying that, we have our current work, which we started with the Fit for 55 pathway after Paris. We will increase our endeavors to have much more renewable energy in our system. And the current discussions are very interesting, and the level of the European Union, with the Parliament, with the Council, with the Commission, for example, concerning our new renewable energy directive, the RED III directive, which is under discussion in Parliament and Council. We are talking about the targets. 40% is in the proposal by the Commission, and we will certainly need more. And also when I hear the very serious and earnest messages by the Italian minister and by the Romanian minister, I think it would be a sign of seriousness if the Council will now also agree to go back to binding target per member state, so that they can be accounted for.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fouquet. And also thank you for that lovely compliment. That was great. And I have to say, incredible panelists like you make my job really easy. So I'm going to get right back to our panelists. Rina Bolet-Teller of Vestas, maybe you can give us a global perspective.
Thank you. And first of all, also thank you for having me here on the panel. The energy transition is undoubtedly advancing, but we have to remind ourselves that renewables account now for about 28% of the global electricity generation, but make only 12% of the world's total energy supply. And to get the world back on a net zero compatible growth path, and to halve emissions by 2030, wind and solar capacity has to more than quadruple by 2030. And exponential growth is required as well for grid build-out or flexibility solutions on the supply and demand side. Think of storage or demand-side management. Yet, growth forecasts for the next few years remain far below from what's needed. One reason being the lengthy permitting process. It can take over 10 years to get a building permit, and the slow transition line expansion in Germany is yet another example. Thankfully, governments across the world are increasingly aware of the importance of removing permitting bottlenecks, but even if they were to succeed, there are further challenges to tackle. Delivering on energy efficiency, avoiding the Jevons paradox, securing space for renewables where they have minimal impacts on biodiversity, delivering on a just transition, and securing the needed raw materials and transport for the hardware of the energy transition.
Thank you very much.
Until now, we are very...
Oh, thank you so much. We'll come back to you, for sure. Right now, I want to come back and direct a question now to the minister from Italy. You quoted Elon Musk in mid-March with these words. I have to read them here. I hate to say this, but we have to increase oil and gas production immediately. Extraordinary times require extraordinary measures. And then you went on to talk about the urgent need to accelerate the process of diversifying supply routes to free Italy as much as possible from Russian market. Does diversifying those supply routes also mean incorporating more renewable energy sources? Minister?
Yes, we are in extraordinary time, and it's clear that if Elon Musk, we are hearing from the Elon Musk profile on Twitter this kind of words, it's clear that we are in emergency time now, and we have to overtake this problem with extraordinary initiatives. I would like to underline that it's not only a crisis about energy. I think that countries like Italy, but all the countries of the European Union are changing, in a way, even the foreign affairs policy. We work very, very well with Annalena Baerbock, and we are taking some decisions about our energy policy, and we are taking some decisions about our foreign affairs policy. For example, the pipeline that the minister mentioned from the southern east flank of European Union, it's crucial even for Moldova. And Moldova is one of the countries that is suffering this crisis, not only for the refugees, not only for the economic impact of the war in Ukraine, but even for the blackmail from the Russian side of the energy that started before the war. In a sort of system where Russia is giving free the energy through Transnistria. Transnistria is selling energy with an incredible price to Moldova. If we want to start an enlargement process with these countries, we have to change the energy policy in order to create the conditions for their independence from some interconnections of the past. For this reason, I think that Elon Musk underlined a problem in an extraordinary time, but it's a short-term solution to increase the production of oil and gas. The long-term solution for our independence in order to avoid blackmail is the renewable energy and the clear energy, because renewable energy are the starting point in order to attain a clear energy system.
Absolutely. Renewable energy is the way to go. I want to turn now to you, Minister Popescu. Speaking of renewable energy, Romania is turning more and more to renewable energy. What challenges, though, arise when you have an existing energy infrastructure that's not compatible with the future direction of energy supply? Minister?
I always say that the colleagues from European countries don't know the mix of Romania. The total production of low-carbon energy is 60% in Romania. So we have 40% renewables, that means solar, wind and hydro, and 20% it's nuclear, which is low carbon. The rest is gas and coal. So we already have 60% of low-carbon electricity, and we want more. We want more to invest in wind, in offshore wind. We want more to invest in photovoltaic, in solar farms, and we have in our resilience plan 1.6 billion euro for energy, and also we have the modernization fund where we have 15 billion euro and 70% in priority investment for renewables and also this transmission of electricity. So Romania is committed to increase the renewables capacity and also is committed to increase the nuclear energy. We are a like-minded state. We are supporting nuclear, and we say that decarbonization without nuclear energy isn't possible because let's be honest, nobody wants to look if it's sunshine outside or the wind, or we have wind in order to have electricity. So we have to have also some base load production of electricity, and nuclear also is the solution. So we are focused on nuclear, renewables, it means wind and photovoltaic, and also together with storage, capacity of storage of electricity, because what I said, we want to use electricity produced by renewables not only when it's wind and sunshine, but also in the other periods. That's why we need storage.
Thank you very much. I want to turn now to State Secretary Revaz. A question for you. I know that Switzerland is also undergoing massive changes to its energy system. But how can we make sure that modern energy systems are resilient and secure?
Actually, the big challenge is to combine conventional infrastructure with the new systems that are being put in place right now. But as we know, all technologies are available. Another challenge is to integrate these technologies in order not to double all infrastructure. And why is it so slow? I see different problems. The first one is investment capital to switch. At the level of country, regional level, corporate level, household level. The second challenge is the supply chain of products, of panels, cars, heat pumps, systems, in order to be able to accelerate the installation of new systems. And the last challenge I see are the staff, the workforces and the competencies have to have the people that are able to increase the installed capacity, the loading systems, and so on.
This idea of competencies and training, we just had a panel session on this here in the Europasaal just a few minutes ago. This is a key component of where we have to, some of the work that still needs to be done. I want to turn now to our virtual guests. Ms. Fouquet, from your perspective, can the EU's target for the expansion of renewable energies still be considered sufficient in view of the massive energy crisis that's been caused by the Russian attack in Ukraine? And what measures can ensure that progress is made more quickly in this area?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. Naturally, I will say no. And the 40% we are having now, as I said before, proposed by the Commission, were even before the crisis initiated by Russia, not enough, as has been shown by studies, for example, from Agora Energiewende in Germany. And AREF, the European Renewable Energies Federation, is just starting a new scientific research and dissemination effort together with the Vienna Technical University, exactly on to look into the compatibility of the incoming new renewable energy which we need and the system which is in place in many regions of the European Union, and the benefits and the challenges, as has already been said, for example, the slow transition in authorization, the question of energy security as public interest when it comes to renewable development. And all these mosaics have to come together. And I think I'm pretty confident the European Parliament, for example, and that was also before the aggression against Ukraine started, is already calling for 45%. And I can also foresee up to 2030, and I can also foresee more to be done on this pathway towards 2030 when the Renewable Energy Directive really will be passed through the legislative process. So that is That is one thing. And as has been said before, renewables are key. And again, the good old efficiency is key, and especially efficiency in those sectors where, like heating and transport, where we have had still too little overall development in this way. And also, we have to be more flexible in the power purchase world. How do we do agreements as industry? What is the industry doing itself to provide heating sources, for example, and energy sources? What will she do in sharing? And then it comes also how costly the transition will be. And now we as renewable energy industry, we can see the question is more, here are the short-term profiteers on the market in gas who are adding to the difficult situation by making in gas and in petrol by making the prices explode further. And I think this is an issue also of social security which has to be tackled. It cannot be that the petrol mayors make more and more profit, and we, as in our communication, for example, by the Commission on the Repower Europe in the face of the crisis, we try everything to bring prices down, as the Italian minister has said, for the households. But there is a mismatch. It's not all Russia. We have also our own lessons to learn in this way from the barrel to the pump. So that is one thing. So we hope that this crisis will accelerate, as I said before, the unity of the European Union to want to go greenhouse gas neutral by 2050. And that includes phasing out of all, be it fossil gas or be it nuclear, obviously. And we need this unity to show itself to the world. And again, that's why RF really would like to see binding obligation that member states said, okay, I get my act together on my own responsibility, and I'm for binding targets up to 2030 for my country.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fouquet. I'd like to turn now to Ms. Bohle-Zeller, because you call for a more holistic approach when it comes to accelerating the energy transition. What is it that we've overlooked? Oh, go ahead.
Exactly. Just look into our increasing raw material dependence, not just with regards to materials needed for renewable energy, but for each and every sector or product we consume. And the spark in inflation triggered by a post-COVID demand revival and is further amplified by the Russian invasion into the Ukraine. And it's impacting now each and every sector. Fertilizer prices increase. As a result, food prices are skyrocketing. Chip shortages halt car production, and renewable energy manufacturers are also squeezed by very high raw material and transport prices, some of them operating now at the brink or even below profitability. So moving towards a circular economy will certainly help alleviating the need for raw materials, but fully cradle-to-cradle recyclability is not achievable today, albeit a lot of efforts are right now underway. We, for example, work on recyclable wind turbine blades while preserving the value of the materials after the recycling process, so enabling a reuse without downgrading the quality. These kind of efforts should be encouraged in all sectors, because otherwise we will, in the long run into supply chain bottlenecks that could increase the costs of the energy transition. And the current rise of inflation should be a wake-up call. Achieving energy security through decarbonization requires very much holistic planning, including not only the acceleration of the renewable energy build-out, but material sourcing, recycling, protecting biodiversity, all kind of other aspects we are looking now into in isolation, but we have to combine these together.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ms. Bohle-Zeller. I'd like to now address the elephant in the room, which is, of course, we've talked about it a little bit so far, the war in Ukraine. When it comes to energy, we want stability. We talked about, Minister from Romania, we talked about you don't want to be able to turn on the light when the sun is shining or when the wind is blowing. You want to have it all the time. We want to have stability when it comes to energy. And renewable energy, which was once viewed as a challenge to the stable supply, has become a driver of decarbonization, diversification, and energy security. And war is the opposite of stability. in every possible way, and as we're seeing when it comes to energy supply. The idea of renewable energy being a driver of energy independence, and therefore a driver of security, has suddenly taken on a much more immediate importance. We are in extraordinary times. How do you see this playing out in the next weeks and in the next months? I'd like to start off with the Minister from Romania.
Yes, we have to face the short-term challenges, as I say, and renewables is the answer to on a medium term, not on a short term. Also, nuclear is the answer on a medium and long term, not on a short term. On a short term, yes, we have to lower as much as we can the dependency from one source of resources. We talk about oil, we talk about gas, oil and gas. So we have to work together and to find as a solution of supply, diversification of the source of supply and also of the supply chain. And we were all mentioned here LNG from Qatar, from Saudi Arabia, from United States, from Egypt, from Israel, from all other sources, from countries that are not working with gas like a political weapon, and also from Azerbaijan through gas pipelines, or through Algeria, through, as my colleagues from Italy, North Africa. So we have to work together at the European level, and I salute the last meeting of the European Council to have a common platform of buying gas. It's voluntary, basically voluntary at the beginning, but I think that together, united, we can perform better. We can find gas for all of us better, and also for Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova. And the war in Ukraine, I think, give us a lesson that we cannot afford to trust people that don't keep their words. And we saw now, because before starting the war, we saw that Moscow said they won't invade Ukraine, they won't do anything, they won't change the contract. Now we saw that they invade Ukraine and they want to change contract, unilaterally change contract. So we have to face also these challenges and to rely on partners that are really reliable. And at that level, we have to be more united than ever, together with United States and to all democratic countries to make a common front to fight with these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'd like to turn now to Italy's perspective.
Yes, and on the perspective of next month, I think that COP27 and G20 would be important for where to try to coordinate any kind of initiative in order to strengthen the partnerships between countries, like-minded countries, that would like to increase the independence from the fossil fuels. And in general, we spoke about Russia, but about the blackmails, the energy blackmails. I think that in particular, as Europe, as European continent, not only as European Union, we need a swap, an energy swap with Africa. Probably hydrogen will be one of the sources that we will use during next years, next decades. And it's clear that it's impossible for us to produce all the hydrogen that we need here on the European continent. So probably we will produce the green hydrogen with the solar energy and the wind energy in Africa. So the stability of the African continent, the foreign affairs policy of the European Union about the southern flank of the southern border of European Union will be crucial. The partnerships that we are establishing between European Union and crucial countries of the African continent, it will be very important not only for the people there, that are our priority, but even for the future of our energy plan. And if I may, as international community, we are a little bit in late about this kind of dynamics, and it's clear. We are in extraordinary time now, and even Italy is in pre-alert mode about the gas and the situation of the request of payments in rubles from the Russian side is unacceptable, and probably we will see next weeks, days, months, other problems about this energy crisis. For this reason, I think that we have to accelerate all these aspects on the multilateral side. And the last thing is, on the national side, in Italy, main enemy of the renewable energies is the bureaucratic system. We are fighting against, in order even to spend in time all the funds that we received for the recovery plan and the Next Generation EU. We are in time, we are respecting all the milestones, but it's clear that we are approving a lot of special laws, decrees against the bureaucratic procedures, because are the first enemy of our renewable energies plan.
Thank you so very much, Minister Di Maio. Bureaucracy, almost always hard to get over. And you said, okay, we're a little bit late to the party. I think it's better late than never. I'd like to turn now to you, State Secretary Rivaz, Switzerland.
I think on the short term for the next days and weeks is to ensure that the molecules and the electrons are available, and all countries are preparing in this difficult situation different measures to ensure that. But the main challenge is still coming, and is the next winter. And we have to start now with the measure in order to refill the storage, the gas storages, and it's a European issue, and in order to be ready for next winter and to reduce the dependency we actually do have.
Absolutely. I'd like to go to our virtual guests now, starting with Dörte Fouquet. How do you see the next weeks and months?
Yeah, it will be tough weeks, but much tougher for the Ukrainians than for us, because we still have a margin of maneuver and we are not fighting at the moment for our life. That is the one thing. What I would like to say is also, which has not been touched upon in this roundtable, the citizens' angle with the energy transition. It started with citizens in Denmark, in Germany, in Spain, in Italy in the past. Citizens have been put in the center of the Fit for 55 package on our pathway to decarbonization by 2050, and that has to be enforced in many member states. So the decentral beauty of renewable energy supply tapped by cooperatives, by citizen energy projects, has to be enforced even more. And what the Italian minister just said is completely correct. Obstacles are planning and permitting. Even when you have a new building block designed in a city, there are many good examples that it is forbidden that you get fossil gas to the settlements, but that they have to be with geothermal or with whatever renewable sources, but that they cannot use fossil gas in that system. And that's a very good advantage. And so the permitting is even the law, the regional and local laws. What do I do in the housing sector, which are important? And then comes the permitting stage, where many things can be facilitated, such as not undergoing auctioning when you want to have access to some funding while you roll out citizen energy projects, for example.
Thank you very much, Dörte Fouquet. I'd like to turn now to Rina Bolec-Heller. How do you see the coming weeks, days, weeks and months?
Depending from which perspective you are looking onto the current challenges. If you look from the wind turbine manufacturer's perspective, I think the challenges will be in the next months to secure enough materials to get transportation in order to at costs that still allow for profitability. When it comes to renewables in general, I think it would be very, very much important to work on removing all these red tape that Minister Di Maio just referred to ease permitting, to help building up a pipeline that is allowing for net zero compatible growth way. And then when it comes for society, what I fail to understand personally is that there's so little emphasis also from the side of the policymakers to call for increased energy efficiency. The IEA has laid out several 10-point plans how to reduce gas dependence, how to reduce oil dependence. And there's a lot on energy efficiency, which could offer immediate relief. And I would like to see these calls being called up much more prominently in the next weeks to come.
Thank you very much, Rina Boletsela, also talking directly to our ministers here about that report from IEA. So we've had an exciting discussion this morning. And as we've learned, we've got different energy resources, societal challenges, and policies. And then, of course, we have red tape and bureaucracy, a lot that we have standing in our way. What can we do to work together towards the goal that we all have in common, namely climate neutrality? Minister Di Maio.
I think that, unfortunately, the terrible crisis like the Ukrainian crisis may be a terrible, if I may, opportunity in order to accelerate all the processes that we are making and we made during the last years. In a way, European Union accelerated about the European defense system after the Afghanistan crisis last summer. Now, we are living this energy crisis, and probably we will accelerate the process about interconnectors. But it's not only a European Union deal, it's a deal of the European continent, and we have to accelerate the interconnections, the LNG terminals. It's crazy because we have some countries on the western side, they have the spare capacity in the LNG terminals of 60%, but there are not interconnectors to give the gas to other countries. And we are buying other LNG terminals on the ships, the offshore LNG terminals, in order to face this crisis. But I'm optimistic in this terrible crisis for Ukrainian people that are suffering more than other people. I'm optimistic only because I know that European Union make an evolution crisis by crisis. And I know that is not good, but we have to use this terrible crisis in order to develop new policies against the dependence that we have from geopolitical actors. And at the same time, about the energy transition, it's clear. I mentioned COP27, I mentioned the G20. We had the presidency last year of the G20. And we approved the final conclusion about the target of 2050 with the carbon neutrality around 2050. You remember this word. We pushed for together, with our countries together, for the 2050 and stop, not around 2050. But the next step is continue to push in the direction of the carbon neutrality on 2050. At the same time, about COP27, we have to create the conditions even in order to balance the new emissions that we will have because of the current crisis. We will increase the production with coal, we will increase the production with gas, so we have to balance these emissions with some initiatives that have to balance these emissions. So we have a lot of things to do, but we are together, and this is better than alone.
Absolutely, together is better than alone, and I'm really happy that you brought this up. One of the things that's so exciting for me as a moderator is when I see one panelist say something and the other panelists are all nodding along, and I want to make sure I give all of you a chance to say something, but I'm going to go next to Minister Popescu. Please, you were nodding along. Let's hear it.
Yes, I am again agree with my colleague. Interconnectivity is crucial to raise the level of interconnectivity in this crisis is crucial, and there we have to work together. We cannot alone. So we have to work together at the European level, at the regional level, and also in order to increase the supply with natural gas or LNG, we have to work at the global level. So, and we have to work together, and we have to transform this crisis in an opportunity. And interconnectivity in gas, it's one thing, it's a good thing, but also interconnectivity of the electric system. And we saw how we did in 1 month, in 1 week, the interconnectivity between Ukraine, Moldova, and Europe. We did it in 1 week or 10 days, and it was meant to be done in 6 months till the beginning of next year. So if we work together and we work together, this interconnectivity, we succeed, and we succeed to synchronize the electric system of Ukraine, Moldova, and Europe in amazing 10 days. Like in pandemic, we work. We learn that we move our work, we move our meeting in online. We develop new services. In the same time, in this crisis, we have to work together, and we have to transform it in an opportunity. And working together, I'm sure that we'll find also opportunity for all of us. This I think is the main challenge: to work together and to solve all problems together.
Absolutely, working together, it is the biggest challenge that we have. But as you've said, we can do it. Maybe it takes a crisis, but we can do it. State Secretary Vaz, please, Switzerland.
We all have our own constraints, national constraints, and all countries also have champions in the private sector, and we can better mobilize the private sectors, private investors, to start with the big infrastructure projects we do need to decarbonize and to increase the supply, security of supply. And they are waiting for proper signals from the governments. That's our task today.
We've heard this multiple times where corporations, private companies are waiting for signs from governments. I was saying earlier today, I feel like it's a bit like we're all at a German nightclub where they don't start dancing until right around midnight. You have to wait, and everyone's ready to dance. I think it's time for us to start dancing, ladies and gentlemen of the panel. But now I'm going to go, before we get to our dance, we're going to head online to talk to Dörte Fouquet of EREF, who's going to tell us her final statements for the day.
Well, very brief. I'm happy we had this roundtable, and we would love that the ministers, what Minister Di Maio said, he said it all, but we would love to have not words but deeds and good action plans, short-term action, that renewables, the beauty of renewables and the willingness of citizens to do much more and for efficiency is recognized and is also honored in a way. So that may be. I hope next year we will have a much more renewable Europe, and I really wish that this unity which came up in the European Union, as Minister Di Maio said, out of a terrible momentum, that we keep on with this unity in energy system change. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dörte Fouquet. To wrap things up for us, Rina Bollet-Zeller. Oh, I'm not sure. Is our final guest still with us online? I'll wait for a moment to see. Rina, unfortunately, our final guest, I think her connection has disappeared. So I want to take this opportunity to thank my panelists here and digitally. Oh, I can't thank you yet because she's back joining us online. We get to have some final comments from Rina Bollet-Zeller. Welcome back.
Sorry, there must have been some connection issues. I would call for anybody to change the approach when it comes to take decisions. Right now, we are very much looking into how to minimize costs, but we should or would get a much better outcome if we try with policies, investment decisions, try to seek the solution that is going to maximize the societal or planetary return on investment. So basically looking into how can we maximize system benefits while minimizing all kind of negative impacts. This is something economists have been calling for centuries, internalizing externalities, but somehow this non-catchy wording was never really taken up. And I firmly believe that accelerating the energy transition will bring higher value than keeping the current fossil fuel-based system, and also bring higher energy security.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Rina Bolet-Zeller, joining us online. Now I can say thank you to my incredible panelists. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a real pleasure and a fantastic way for us to wrap up our second session of the morning here in the Europasaal. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Minister Luigi Di Maio, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in Italy, Virgil Daniel Popescu, Minister of Energy for Romania, Benoit Revaz, State Secretary and Director of the Swiss Federal Office of Energy. Joining us online, Professor Dörte Fouquet, the Director of the European Renewables Energies Federation, and Rina Bolet-Zeller, the Senior Specialist, Global Public Affairs for Vestas in Denmark. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm going to give you a round of applause. You were fantastic. Thank you so much.